Okay, so this will be a feedback slash critique for Kin Ghost Phoenix, or Ghost. I tried looking at the previous feedback I did for you in order to kind of like, hey, what's going on? What have I don't want to cover ground that I already talked about before. But the last video I did for you is kind of like, hey, how do you deal with pressure as Falkenraum type situation? It wasn't really like a feedback slash critique, right? So this one, I will try and analyze this match and try to give some areas on, hey, what's going on here? You can improve a little bit, right? And give some more feedback in this area, right? You know the drill. I am by no means a Tekken professional. Why does Twitch do this? I am by no means a Tekken professional. I'm just someone who enjoys Tekken. And yeah, it's just food for thought, man. Okay. Structuring offense as Feng is not super intuitive, but it's also not that crazy, right? Congratulations, down back 3 hit. You are now +5, right? You're in crouch, sure, but the opponent is also in crouch, I think, right? You have plus frames, but you're not using them here, right? So on hit, typically, it's very rare for lows to be super plus on hit without some kind of drawback, right? Let's take a look at a good old Feng here. This is launch punishable, right? However, it doesn't matter. You hit, and so now you have plus frames to do some offense. From here, you can do wall standing 1 or wall standing 4 to disrupt any sort of button the opponent could press. And if you do wall standing 1, you're left at -1, which isn't amazing, but it can still enable some sort of tricky pressure that Feng is infamous for, right? I think you are giving up your pressure too easily here. If your stuff hits and it is plus on hit, so stuff like quarter circle forward 1, down back 3, 1+4 if you want to use that move, all of these options enable you to create more offense, right? If your opponent presses a button 8 out of 10 times, they'll most likely die because they're pressing with that a pretty heavy disadvantage, right? So don't just give up your pressure, right? When stuff hits, consider pressing in a little bit more to try and just keep the opponent under lockdown. So yeah. From here, in this situation, I still think wall standing 1 reaches, so I think wall standing 1 would have been fine. But if you don't want to press in this situation because you're like, oh, I'm kind of far, sure, whatever. I still think wall standing 1 would be fine. Yeah. I'll talk about this more later when we get to like neutral, I guess. Okay. See, it's really tough, right? Like, why? Okay. Yeah, counter hit, sure. Yeah. So because you're not using your plus frames as much as you could be, the opponent feels no pressure after down back 3, right? They should not feel this confident in trying to attack you after down back 3. But because they see that you just kind of poke at them, but you don't try to capitalize on that, right? Yes, you don't always want to be attacking the opponent after every single plus frame situation. But on the flip side, you don't want to simply be letting go of every single situation where you have an advantage, right? If you're not poking down the opponent with a plethora of like jabs, mids, lows, etc., and you're just kind of occasionally doing a down back 3, you're not going to win the round like that, right? It's just, you're not going to, unless your defense is godlike and the opponent just cannot touch you, you're not going to win any round solely off of down back 3, right? So try to incorporate a little bit more offense, right? Do wall standing 1. From wall standing 1, do movement or a throw or a jab, right? Just don't let your opponent feel that they have this easy read on your offense. And this is going to come up later because when you start doing your sidestep fours, right? Because you're like, oh, sidestep four, it's a launcher or something, and your opponent's just like, wow, he sidestepped, I'm just gonna block low, and they destroy you for it, right? Excuse me. That's what I'm talking about, of like, your offense is too predictable, and you don't seem to also have a good defense to make up for it, right? If your offense is predictable, but your just defense is godlike, it's fine, whatever. You just poke them once, and then they can't touch you for the rest of the round. But that's not what's happening here, right? What's happening here is you touch them once, and then you're just kind of like, oh, I'm just gonna give up my advantage. It doesn't feel like you know Feng very well to do what with in terms of what to do when you have an advantageous situation. You just kind of, oh, this move is a launcher, I'll do this move here or something like that. But there's a lot more you could be doing with a lot of Feng's tools and pokes, right? But we'll continue. Okay, so okay, your opponent just did a mid, right? And this mid is pretty fast. This requires some Josie knowledge, which if you don't have Josie knowledge, fine, whatever. But this requires understanding that your opponent is clearly attacking you with something that is not a high, right? So why are you pressing down back 3? Like, what is your goal here? If your opponent pressed a mid and the mid hit, I don't think there's a mid that's negative on hit. I could be wrong, right? But maybe Brian's unblockable or whatever. But if an opponent presses a mid and it hits you, 99 times out of 100 that shit is plus on hit, right? And then if you do, so no matter what you do, you're already gonna your down back 3 is gonna be beaten out by more moves, and more importantly, it's not gonna beat out any jabs because your opponent's not doing any highs, right? Your high crush low isn't gonna do anything. So why are you pressing it again, right? You have to ask yourself, right? So if, like, okay, if my opponent is doing a mid, and one, there's no such thing as a mid crush, right? But if my opponent is doing a mid, I get hit, what should I do? Should I A, continue to mash under that, or B, just block, right? Why would you not just block? And I'm not trying to sound condescending here. I mean, maybe I do. Everybody tells me it sounds sarcastic as fuck, whatever. But you have to start just, you feels like you're just too overeager to apply your game plan, right? This is a 2-player game, right? You have to understand that there is another human being on the other side of that screen playing Josie, and you have to react to what they're doing. You can't just, oh, they took their turn and now it's time for me to apply my offense, right? Your lack of defense is just what's getting you killed. And then also your habits of just, I don't know how to block, apparently, or I don't feel, I don't know. I'm not certain what exactly is the thought process you have going on here, but you're just trying to apply your offense, and it's just not gonna happen, right? You have to start recognizing when are actual opportunities to apply your offense and when are the opportunities of, I'm just gonna block, right? Like, why so what was the game plan there, right? Were you just like, oh, I need a big opportunity, or I need a big read here, right? Why do the down back 3, right? Also, why is this Josie punishing with wall standing 2-1? But whatever. Why? Well, what was the thought process there, right? It also feels like you're falling to the trap of, like, I'm just gonna do my big moves, and I'm gonna do these big powerful moves as Feng, and you're gonna die for it because you're going for these big overcommittal moves when you don't need to be. But let's continue. Are you doing that because it's a high crush? Is that the thought process there? Right? So, like, let's just keep going. Also, yeah, what are these combos? You need to. Okay, so let's break it down, right? Okay, they're pressing a lot of highs on you right here, which is good. This is the move you did was fine, but you can be doing better moves. I mean, it's a launcher. I don't know. If you're unfamiliar with the opponent's pressure, which you seem to be, you're just kind of like, oh, they're just pressing at me a lot. I'm gonna do my down back 3 sneak edge or whatever. Down back 4. Actually, let's just keep it simple. I'm not gonna go into advanced Feng strats. Let's keep going. I don't know what these combos are. Maybe you didn't expect to get the launch when you did, but I mean you pressed the launcher, so I don't know why you wouldn't. But work on the combos. There's nothing. There's no like, oh, maybe you could do this instead or that instead. It's just you gotta do better combos. Look up a combo guide, start practicing them. Neat. Okay, so okay, just this whole sequence, right? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Were you okay? Maybe you were expecting him to dash in. Like, why do the sidestep 4? I don't understand it. Okay. There's a lot to unpack here. Let's keep watching just to. What was that whole sequence, right? It okay. Okay. Awesome. So what changed here that the other rounds didn't have, right? It felt like you were using a lot more variety in your moves, and your opponent just never really was able to catch a breath, right? Which is fine. Besides these, oh my god, all these awful like hop kicks, and then the opponent just not punishing you as hard as they should. But whatever. Alright. Oh my god, that whiff, that's really funny. Sure. So this right here is gonna be just super basic offense that you should start incorporating more into your gameplay, right? Congratulations, you just did the low hit, and it's pretty chunky damage, right? Now, the opponent who's not going to be playing some 4D chess level shit, right? They're just going to be going, oh shit, he hit me with a low, I need to start blocking low, right? You saw this previously with how they had a good read on your sidestep 4, down back 4, etc., etc. They're pretty conditioned to block low. So now your opponent is blocking low. What are you going to do? You do a mid. Awesome, right? This should be the cornerstone of your offense. Constantly, you just seem to be doing high into low, low into low, low, high, low, or something like that. And it just doesn't feel like you have a good structure to your offense. You're just kind of pressing these moves without any sort of reason behind them, right? When you press the move at a certain time, what are you trying to achieve, right? What exactly is your goal that you are trying to do in that moment in time, right? When you press down back 3, it's typically either you're trying to high crush their jabs, or you're trying to get in some chip damage, right, and some easy plus frames, because that move is amazing, right? So then, once you got the plus frames, what are you going to press next, right? What are you going to do next? Maybe wall standing 1, because it'll beat nearly everything the opponent does, besides, actually I don't know what wall standing 1 loses to in that situation after down back 3 on hit, right? Because now you did a mid, because they're going to be blocking low because you did down back 3, right? You do the mid. If it hits, awesome, more plus frames to work with. If it doesn't hit, you're only -1, so then you can continue to maybe do some pressure and or offense here, right? Lots of opportunities for stuff. Lots of opportunities. You need to have a more structured flow to your offense, right? You can't just be kind of doing these moves for no reason. It just feels like you don't know what to do, so you're just going to do these moves, right? Look at what your opponent is doing. Are they stand blocking? Cool. Do a jab for safety, so maybe some highs for easy plus frames or safety. Do a throw to break up them stand blocking. Do a low for chip damage and pressure, right? Are they ducking? Start doing mids. Are they trying to move around? Use your homing moves, right? Each action your opponent takes, you have an equal and opposite reaction on your end, but you're not doing any of that. You're just kind of looking for an opportunity when you can finally press a button, and then you'll press some big committal button. And that's kind of the issue I'm seeing here, is that your defense is not good against this Josie, or in general. You just seem too overeager to apply your game plan and not just kind of like, I'm just going to sit back and punish, right? Feng's punishment is fine. It's nothing to go crazy about, but he has he has punishers where they matter, right? And you need to be punishing your opponent. You can't just be letting them press all these buttons. You have to learn how to block, right? If you're too overeager to apply your offense, you're just going to die for it. I don't really feel like doing a full breakdown because there's just a lot to unpack here. So instead, I'm just going to cut it off here and ask you the question, right? Where do you feel like your offense is lacking, or where do you feel like you need to work on, right? There's a lot of improvements that can be made. It just feels like you're just kind of lost and aimlessly wandering. So let me try and structure it a bit more. What are you doing? Where do you feel like you can improve on? What exactly is frustrating you the most? Is it just losing, right? So we can break that down. Why are you losing? What is hitting you? How are you losing health, right? There's a whole process to it that you can easily break down, and it starts with looking at the screen and looking at why. Why is your opponent getting all these rounds off of you, right? When you get hit or they launch you or counter you, what happened? Was it because you took a risky move and they blocked it? Was it because you were mashing? Was it because you moved at the wrong time? For each action your opponent take that results in a ward from them, there was a beginning, middle, and end to how they got to that point, right? There's a whole, it's not just you play the game and then your opponent just magically beats you. So each interaction, start just looking at it and being like, okay, what am I doing here? What am I doing wrong? Why am I getting hit? What's going on here? And I think starting from there, just focusing on cleaning up defense will be ideal, will be more than would be a good starting point, right? But hey, you might disagree. You might feel that there's something else you want to work on instead. So, handing it off to you, right? Where do you feel like is an area that you want to focus on, or an area for improvement? And then let me know, right? Or as in the Discord, what am I supposed to do in X situation? What am I supposed to do in Y situation? Actually, yeah, you did ask a few questions, right? Let's go to the Feng Wei channel. Oh boy, Saibatu, my favorite place on earth. Okay, looking at this in real time, I'm just at the point where I think I want to be good enough, period, because I just don't play no enough or play enough. Okay, so let's break that down for a little bit, right? That's the two issues. You just plain don't know enough or play enough, right? Both of those are fixable, and let's talk about playing enough, right? You don't need to treat this game like a full-time job, right? You have to scale things properly. If you're not going to tournaments for this, if you're just playing against your friends, right? You don't need to treat this like a full-time job. You don't need to be playing 24/7. It helps, right? But there are other things you could be doing, and that will lead to the main point of you just don't know enough, right? So analyze that, right? Ask yourself, what do you feel like you don't know? What do you feel like you're lost on? Where do you feel like I'm lost and I have no idea what to do? And ask that question, right? Where do you feel like your knowledge starts and where does it stop? And from there, just continue to build up that knowledge, right? So the overarching point of, or sorry, the hurdle of fighting games is that they are an investment. They just are, right? It's a very time consuming thing to do. However, in my opinion, right, it's the same for any sort of game with a competitive environment, right? An online shooter, league, chess, RTSs, anything that has like a competitive option to it. There's going to be layers, and there's a whole iceberg. Like, you're just at the tip of the iceberg when you enter these things, right? At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself the question, do you want to get better at this, right? Do you want to actually invest time into this and start chipping away at it, right? And if it's just this, I don't know, for me it's like a simple yes or no, right? If you don't enjoy playing fighting games, even when you feel like you're winning, if you don't enjoy them, you know, there's no reason to keep forcing it, right? But if you do enjoy them and you just feel like you just don't know what to do, that's an easily solvable solution, is you just start building up that knowledge, right? Every single Tekken player that you see in a Discord, in a tournament, in an online ranked, started where you are now, right? They started the game, they had a lack of knowledge, and they just continuously built up that knowledge. And it feels like, oh, I'll never catch up. There's 50 characters in the game. There's so many years of experience. It's like, okay, yeah, that's true, sure, but you're missing the forest for the trees, right? You're looking at, oh my god, look at all this stuff you have to do, and instead of just, okay, I'll just take it one step at a time, right? You build up the knowledge over time. You build up your control of the character. Once you have control of the character, such as, you know, consistent combos, a good understanding of, like, at least, hey, what are his good moves? Why are they good? Maybe, right? And then you start building up the punishment knowledge, right? Like, oh, what is the punishment for this situation? Yes, there's like 30,000 punishment situations in this game, sure, right? What is it, like 10,000 moves per character, 50 characters, 50,000, whatever, right? But you can just build up that knowledge over time. It doesn't have to be like right away, but if you continue to build up that knowledge and understanding of the game and how it works, right, you will see results. Actually, there's a very good YouTuber that I like that I would recommend that I'm gonna link to you, called Ramola. She does a lot of videos about self-improvement, about, hey, what do I do in this game? The mentality of it, how to get better, various, just all sorts of, hey, what do I do in X situation? So I'm gonna link both of these to you, and I think you know, once you make the decision, you're like, yes, I want to invest time into this, or no, I don't want to invest time into this. You know, try and just iron out, like, okay, what are the areas what are the areas you need improvement on? What are the areas you want to improve on? And just slowly build up that knowledge over time, right? I don't think you need to be playing it 24/7, just 15 minutes a day, just practicing and building up that knowledge, and you just keep chipping away at it. It's like learning anything, really. It's just break it down into smaller bite-sized chunks that are easy to digest and understand, and then you just keep at it, and eventually you'll see a lot of progress that you won't even recognize yourself after, you know, a sufficient amount of time of practicing. What is that sufficient amount of time? That's really up to the individual. But I think you're too focused on, like, oh, I'm not seeing immediate results. It's kind of like, you know, you might not recognize it, but it's hard to, like, you know, compare your gameplay to where you were a year ago or whenever you started playing. I think it would be different. It's very hard to recognize progress, but it's definitely doable and definitely possible, right? All right, I've rambled on for long enough. If you have questions, feel free to ask them in the Discord, and we'll try and be more specific with the advice, right? All right, have a good one.